Hi, everyone. Welcome to GPTZero, Idea to Iteration, powered by Streamlit and Snowflake. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Caroline Frasca, and I work on developer experience for the Streamlit open source Python library at Snowflake.
My name's Edward. I am the CEO and founder of GPTZero. We are a seed stage startup that just started and was live 6 months ago, have grown to from 2 to 12 people, and are working on AI detection and verification. And you can see we're powered by Snowflake.
Awesome. So just to give you a brief agenda, we're going to talk about the creation of the original super viral GPTZero Streamlit app. We're going to talk about how that app went incredibly viral and the future of GPTZero, the company that Edward founded, and what their product offerings are going to look like. And finally, we'll cover some learnings, both from Edward's team and from the Streamlit and Snowflake side as well. So let's dive right into the creation of the GPTZero Streamlit app.
All right. Let's start with some motivation and inspiration. My background is actually in journalism. I was previously working at the BBC before diving into this world. And you can say, even in 2020, bots and kind of technology was proliferating the internet, and people were underestimating what was happening. So this was a information network of, you can imagine, 2020 during elections. There were bots generated on Facebook. There were, bot networks generated on Twitter, and we were already looking at how to see if these things were authentic or generated by artificial intelligence. I would say the solution doesn't have to be so complicated. Sometimes it is just a statistical layer. Sometimes you can tell as a human yourself. So I like to give this example because the popular model in 2020 for generating facial images was StyleGAN. And there was a thing of StyleGAN was generating a really human faces. But people noticed that actually the pupils and the eyes were all at the exact same location. So you can line all of those up and kind of find an information network of bots. And you can see that the truth was hidden in the eyes. Through us, I would say we kind of take this initial motivation in 2020, and up until 2022, 2023, with the proliferation of technology, people are again underestimating what it can do. And that was the motivation of putting something out there to detect whether the information we're consuming is AI generated or not. So yes, then we started building GPTZero. Streamlit was the platform we chose to just get an MVP out there. So I was doing research with Princeton's NLP lab for around a year, looking at AI text detection. And it was really December that everything was everywhere. I would say it's not just technical folks or people that are attending Snowflake's conferences. Like every day, people were like, "Holy shit! What is happening?" We're really unprepared for ChatGPT or the technologies that's entering the world, and that was the motivation of just putting something out there. I would say, frankly, Streamlit was the easiest to use platform. Really helpful team, really simple UI, and you could just build something in a matter of days. And that's why we use Streamlit. Great, yeah. So I spent December, sort of winter, just coding an app on Streamlit, put out the MVP, and it got some initial traction and virality, which was around 7.6 million Twitter views in sort of this 2 days. It was like overnight, you wake up to that virality. In a sense, we got lucky. But in another sense, I would attribute a lot of it to counterculture, where people were reacting to technology being everywhere and not as much people thinking about the forces to understand and interpret the technology that was being released into the world at this sort of turn of the new year. Cool.
Yeah, so GPTZero, the initial Streamlit app, went incredibly viral, and it was a level of attention on a Streamlit app that we had not seen before. Typically, apps that had gone viral on our community cloud hosting platform would stay viral for a few hours, and then the attention and that increased traffic would kind of wane from there. But GPTZero was the first community cloud hosted app that sustained virality over an entire month. It was the month of January January 2023, and it was averaging about 100,000 views per week consistently. And this is just a snapshot of what that initial Streamlit app actually looked like. You can see the functionality is pretty straightforward. You copy a piece of text, you paste it into that text input box, you hit enter, and then the app provides you with the probability that that text was generated using AI. And the media coverage of this app and this incredible story of Edward, this senior at Princeton, building this app really quickly just went incredibly viral, and there was intense media coverage. 500,000 people trying the initial beta in the first month, 6 different BBC interviews, upcoming documentaries, really just an incredible amount of media attention on this app and Edward. And this is just a very small subset of those headlines and those articles that were written about GPTZero. This experience of seeing this app go incredibly viral raised some really important questions for the Streamlit and Snowflake team. Viral apps are such an incredible opportunity to reach new users who maybe haven't even heard of Streamlit before. So we want to make sure that when apps go viral, they stay up, they don't crash, they have enough resources. We have to figure out operationally, how do we get in touch with app authors as quickly as possible in case there's an error that's coming up on their app or in case the app is crashing. So we need to make that process as quick and as positive as possible. From an engineering perspective, we need to maximize app performance and minimize app downtime. We need to make sure that our fail messages are viewer-friendly, but that they also obscure any sensitive data that the developer wouldn't want to expose to viewers. And we want to figure out how to scale hosting resources, even on this free community cloud platform, as quickly as possible in a way that is also sustainable. So let's get into the future of GPTZero.
Awesome. Well, since the Streamlit app came out in January, a lot has changed, including our current website and dashboard has around 100,000 daily active users, and 1.2 million people have made accounts, which is a crazy number considering kind of the start of this in just a few days in January with Streamlit's platform. Since then, we raised around in this environment, which is definitely interesting for venture capital, but never a time to do something like this. And grew a team of just started me, a co-founder, dropped out of his PhD to do this, and then now we're a team of 12. OK. We got some fun stuff. So starting from the Streamlit app, we built a lot more that we'll show you with some fun demos, whether it's dashboard, an API for enterprise customers, Chrome extension, and new verification features, because we realized that, sure, we started building out detection for AI content and AI text, but at some point, our vision and goal is to go into generation as well, and we'll tell you a little bit more about that right now. So the idea here is you have detection as the first layer of defense. And in the end of the day, detection is different for different use cases, whether it's use cases we're encountering like educational text, editorials in industry and workplaces, as well as industry use cases, such as we've actually talked with a lot of like leading machine learning companies that have started using our API. I can definitely share that use case as well. And it's different that we have a model, but we can tune the sensitivities and tune different applications for the use cases. So definitely a product vision is to build the technology in terms of the research and development for detection. Because as we know, there's technology in academia, and not just detection, but generation. A lot of the leading edge research in this space actually comes from industry. I definitely believe we need to do the same for the detection side, because that's kind of critical to humanity and knowing how these AI models are adopted responsibly. Lastly, it's to actually be on the verification side. So how do you prove that when you write a piece of text, that it's you? It's human, it's something you wrote yourself. It could be as simple as typing it. It could be some NLP models that analyze your typing patterns. It could be verification with camera. It could be another sort of self-declared verification. And how do we merge those together with the detection platforms that we're building? that's definitely the vision here. Cool.
Awesome. So this is actually just a quick demo of the functionality that was also captured in the original Streamlit app. So what you're going to see here is that we're using ChatGPT to generate some text. We're going to then paste it into GPTZero, and then GPTZero is going to give us the probability that that text was generated using AI. And this is using the GPTZero product today, but this same functionality was captured by the original MVP that was actually a Streamlit app.
Awesome. Well, I'm not going to do all the demos, but I'll give you some of the key points. So here we have an API. It's free to use and try. You can go to gptzero.me, and kind of in the AI detection, there's an API section. The key idea here is we built this out as developers for developers. You actually don't even need to write a single line of code to just try it and post it and send API requests on the website. In terms of use cases, it's really interesting. You have education, editorial, SEOs. We also have machine learning companies that have started to use our API. To tell you about this, I would say, kind of as you think traditionally, large language models were trained on data from the year 2000 up to the year 2020. But as you go from the year 2022 onwards, there's a new problem that the data sets that these large language models are being trained on from the internet are now polluted by its own outputs. So this whole industry perhaps actually needs a filter and a detection layer, whether it's OpenAI models, but every other company in the world that's trying to do this, whether it's Stability, every other model in the world might need that filter layer to train better large language models. So definitely an interesting use case you think about how detection might be core to the spatial generation that we're all living under. I also maybe just skip a little bit of demo, but here's the Chrome extension. The goal here is as we pursue also an enterprise use case with the API, we always want to offer something for individuals to use, whether it's journalists, whether it's readers and consumers of news, whether it's anyone that just needs detection. And for that, that's our Chrome extension. If you go to the Chrome store and search GPTZero, you'll find it. A neat feature is showing right now is highlighting the portions of text, and that's also from feedback we receive from users, that people are mixing and matching AI-generated content. It's not either black or white, or entirely AI or entirely not. Here's what really excites me as well. We want to be combining verification that this text was something you wrote, and the provenance of the text you consume with our detection layer. For us, that right now is looking like a feature where we're building on Google Docs, on Word, on our own platform and API for anywhere that has a text box, actually, really, is you can type in something, this is a demo on Google Docs, and then you get a report where you have a video of the typing process, and this is the copy and paste portion from the GPT-generated text, and it'll highlight that. At the end, it'll give you a verification or a badge if this is entirely human content. For us, this actually can be something that empowers the detection layer where you have base level detection, and if there's content that's incorrect, you actually can come in and have that verification layer of changing and iterating the model. Cool. Some learnings.
Awesome. So we're going to get into some of the learnings from the Streamlit team first. So the major change that we ended up creating due to the virality that we saw with GPTZero has to do with the Streamlit open source Python library's implementation of caching. So we saw initially that the app was crashing a ton, the resource usage was spiking super high, and our engineering team realized that this had something to do with how our caching implementation works. So to get started, I'm going to give you a brief run through just of how caching usually works, how it worked with the Streamlit library. This is not going to be news for any developers in the room, but typically we have the first user that accesses the app. That app executes, and eventually it encounters a function within a caching decorator. But since this is the first session, the function hasn't actually been cached yet. So it's a cache miss, which means that the expensive function we were trying to avoid running, it's still going to run. We have to do that to get the result. But then after we get the result, that result will be added to the cache. What happens for later users is they go through that same flow, they hit the function that's within the caching decorator, but since the function has already been cached, since this is not the first session, it's a cache hit, and we don't have to run that expensive function again. We can just return the result. Everyone's happy. What happened in the case of GPTZero is that we had many, many users accessing the app at the exact same time. So they were all going through the same flow where the app was executing, they were hitting that function within the caching decorator, and multiple sessions were simultaneously checking the cache for the same non-existent value. So a cache miss was happening for a ton of users at the same time, and each session was actually running the really expensive function again at the same time. And because that function was so memory intensive, the memory usage for the app was spiking super high, and the app was crashing. Luckily, our engineering team figured out that this was the core issue, and they changed the implementation of caching. So the way that it works now is that those same users are going to hit that function that's within the caching decorator. They all get the cache miss, but instead of all of those sessions executing the expensive function, just a single session is going to execute the function, and the rest of them are going to block. They're just going to wait until that single session returns the value. That session will add the value to the cache, and the rest of the functions can just grab the result from the cache rather than all executing the function and all spiking memory usage and causing the app to crash. Once this change was made to the implementation of caching, GPTZero stopped crashing, and the performance was significantly better. So this was really the core takeaway for our team. We made this technical change that is already benefiting other really popular apps.
Great. On our learnings, I'll just share 3 things that we've learned in the last 6 months. One is, in terms of technology, the current state of AI detection is just taking academic models, putting a UI around it, and just putting it out there. That's not going to work. This is a data problem. And if there's anything we learned in the last 10 years of deep learning, is that things that statistical methods can't pick up can be done with a traditional deep learning approach. And this is something really industry needs to be empowered to do. We're really lucky in the last 6 months, and because of the virality, we're sitting on basically a treasure trove of data set of people that have been using our application and want to put that and resources to determining a deep learning approach of improving detection. 2 is, I would say, in terms of interpretability, transparency always wins at the start, at the very end. And there's definitely a tension because we came here and we started as a startup as basically bringing the truth to light and transparency in a lot of these models that are being put out into the world. But then now we're a machine learning company ourselves, and machine learning companies and their algorithms are historically black boxes. So how do we keep on following this ethos? For us, it's now releasing the different components of detection and showing that, okay, maybe we have an initial statistical layer of detection that you can see somewhere here that is picking up on language and differences between human and AI writing. Maybe that's saying one thing. But we also have a layer of detection that's training our own in-house large language model with a similar architecture to ChatGPT, and everything's probabilistic, next word, next word, next word, and getting the probability of how likely it is to generate a piece of text. If it's very likely, it's likely that the text was AI generated. If not, probably not. And what happens with these 2 indicators, many indicators conflict, and how can we communicate that to users? A little bit of interpretability will bring a lot of trust. I think that's not just true for the detection side, it's absolutely true for the generation side. The last thing is, as we're a startup navigating a consumer use case that gave us initial virality, and now an enterprise use case, how do we balance the 2? I would say, yes, different models are used to service different use cases, but at the end of the day, the purpose is the same. No one likes to be deceived, whether you're an individual human consuming news, whether you're someone consuming any information that's presented to you, whether you're doing in a day-to-day personal setting or industry setting, or you're a major company doing that, or an enterprise. No one wants to be deceived. everyone wants to know the truth. And as long as that remains consistent, we can build for both. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers.